Welcome to the video, a complete list of interview questions and answers. Have you ever wondered about what kind of questions they ask during the job interview? Well, in this video, I'm going to give you a comprehensive list of different job interview questions. I'll be giving you 50 of them, to be exact, and also be sharing some of the astonishing sample answers that we have seen over the years, as well as some interview preparation tips. I'm Professor Job Offer, and I've spent the last 10 years with a number of Forbes Global 2000 companies and have helped people land jobs at companies like this, including Amazon and Google. And I'm here to share with you my tips and tricks on landing your next job offer. So let's dive right in. The list of 50 interview questions. First and foremost, one of the most common questions, tell me about yourself. There's a little asterisk because I'm going to give you a sample answer for this later on. Number 2, why should we hire you? And next, number 3, what do you know about our company? Or what do you know about the position you're applying for? They can change the words around if they wanted to. Number 4, what are your strengths? And on the other hand, what are your weaknesses? Number 6, what is your greatest achievement? And next one, how has your education prepared you for your career or for this role? Right. Tell me about your short-term goals and tell me about your long-term goals. Number 10, what motivates you? And here's a question from Google. Is it possible that 5 minus 2 equals 4? How? Let me think about that. Number 11, how would your previous colleagues describe you? Describe your team player qualities. We're looking for team players. Number 13, tell me about the hobbies and interests from your resume. And 14, what makes you think you are the best person for this position? And why do you want to work here? Why do you want to work for our company? Why do you want this position? 16, tell me about a time you went above and beyond your Call of Duty. Tell me about a time you went above and beyond your roles and responsibilities. 17, tell me about a time you had a conflict with your manager or boss and how you dealt with it. And 18, a little asterisk there because I'm going to give you a sample answer for this. It's about a time you had a conflict with your team member or colleague and how you dealt with it. 19, describe a time you demonstrated leadership. And number 20, what is your ideal job? Remember the Google question, how is it possible that 5 minus 2 equals 4? Well, it works like this. You write 5 in alphabets and you remove 2 letters and you get the Roman or Greek number 4. So if you want to know more about some of the questions Google asks, I have a whole video on that, so feel free to go check that out. 21, tell me about a time you didn't meet your goals. Describe your leadership qualities. Tell me about a time you didn't meet the deadline. 24, describe a time you demonstrated problem-solving skills. Also, we'll be giving you a great sample answer for this question. 25, we're halfway there. How do you handle stress? What are your values? And have you ever had to deal with a moral or an ethical conflict? 28, tell me about a time you had to persuade someone. 29, do you have any experience managing people? Well, please share. We'd love to know. Do you have any questions for me? Oh, well, if some of you have had interviews before, you probably know that at the end of the interview, usually at the end of the interview, the candidates will also have a chance to ask some questions to the interviewers. This means you have a chance to interview the interviewers. So you might be wondering, oh, what kind of questions should I ask? Because depending on what you ask or how you ask these questions, it'll help to create impact and also to help you decide. So I have a video on some of the best questions to ask the interviewer during a job interview. So if you're wondering, you can go check that out. Number 31, do you have any experience managing projects? Well, please share. And 32, why did you leave your last job? It's a very fair question. 33, how do you handle pressure or how do you handle stress? I've also seen that a lot. Next, what would you do if you had a different opinion from your manager or from your boss? Tell me about a time you took an initiative to do something. Okay. Next, what do you think sets you apart from other candidates? You're gonna have competition for the position. So, what makes you different? What makes you unique? How do you prioritize your tasks? And how do you prioritize when you have to choose between personal and professional life? One of the most common dilemmas that working professionals face on a regular basis. 39, what would you do if you knew you cannot meet the deadline? And tell me about a time you had to make a difficult decision. So remember how I mentioned that you have as a candidate, you have a chance to interview the interviewers and to ask some questions. Well, you can really pretty much ask anything, but there are certain questions that you should not ask, including stupid questions. And if you're wondering what type of questions and what questions you should avoid asking during the interview, I have a video on that as well. So, lots of resources out there. for completely free. Number 41, what was the biggest challenge in a leadership role you've had? 42, if I asked your previous employer for one reason on why I shouldn't hire you, what would they say? It's a fun one. 43, describe a situation when you had to work with someone difficult. Well, how did you handle it? We all know that we've had this scenario. How did you handle it? What other companies are you also interviewing with? What was your biggest challenge? Tell me about a time you made a major mistake. And if you happen to have any gap in your resume, so a gap means anything more than 3 or 6 months, they may ask, could you tell me about the gap in your resume? And is there something you'd like me to know that's not on your resume or CV? And how do you disagree with someone? And last and finally, number 50, we're looking for leaders. What is your idea of a leader and how does that differ from a manager? Probably one of the tougher ones on the list. But, well, let's take a look at some astonishing sample answers. First and foremost, one of the most common questions, tell me about yourself. Here is a sample answer. Feel free to pause the video. Well, I always had so much interest in cars. I loved the way they looked and the way they sounded. Only gifts I ever wanted for Christmas and birthdays were model cars, and over the years I collected over 100 of them. Well, my passion for cars grew even further, and I started learning about the mechanisms behind them through books and TV. So to further my passion, I decided to study mechanical engineering to better understand how vehicles worked. With this in mind, I participated in a number of vehicle-based projects and clubs to expand my knowledge. In my third year, our team competed in the National Remote Car Competition and won second place, where I was in charge of the drivetrain and safety. I value creating safer vehicles to protect people and the environment, and I look forward to doing so with one of the most innovative in the world, Tesla. So that's a great sample answer for a number of different reasons. Tells a story. It demonstrates your passion, your knowledge, what you're skilled in, your competencies. At the same time, it also connects with the company's values. I might actually create a whole video on how to write or how to formulate your tell me about yourself. But anyways, down the road. And another question, tell me about a time you had a conflict with your team member or a colleague and how you dealt with it. Well, in order to answer this question, I'm going to use something called the STAR method. STAR is an acronym, maybe some of you have heard of it. It actually creates an easy to follow story, which also at the same time contains a conflict and a resolution. And it stands for situation, task, action, and result. And if you're wondering, if you want to know more about the STAR technique, which will actually come in quite handy later on, I have 2 separate videos on what it is and why do we use it and when do we use it and how do we use it. So let me show you a couple examples. So conflict with team members. First, you're going to explain the situation. I was on the organizing committee for the company's Christmas party, and we found that we would exceed the budget by about 20%. And this is because each organizing committee member had a different perspective of the priorities and how the budget should be allocated. What was the task? Well, our task, we were short-staffed and only had a few weeks to plan one of the largest events of the year with a limited budget of $50,000. Okay, what was my action? Well, in order to efficiently identify areas to reduce expenses or spendings, I suggested taking a step back and creating a table with importance or weights assigned to each category, including catering, Santa Claus, gifts, and etc., to reevaluate the allocation of the budget. And what was the result? Well, by assigning the weights and creating the table together, the committee was able to align and agree on the priorities and determine areas to save costs and reach a few $1,000s below budget. That's how we use the STAR method. I'm showing you another example. Another astonishing answer. For this question, describe a time you demonstrated problem-solving skills. The situation, advertising revenues were falling at my previous company. One of the main causes was due to our long-term advertisers or ad clients not renewing their contracts. Okay, revenues are falling. By June, our ad revenue had been 15% below the previous years. Oh, okay, we have some issues here. We have a problem. What was my task? My responsibility was to generate ideas, incentives, and the strategy to turn around the falling ad revenues. So, what was my action? I reached out to 25 of our long-term clients and gained understanding of 2 major concerns, which were reduced client engagement and pricing. In order to address this, I devised a 3-step client care strategy for our account managers to build better rapport and improve engagement. Additionally, I created promo packages to bundle ads with other services to offer discounts, which actually addresses both of the major concerns. As a result, my 3-step client care strategy and promo package eventually brought back 70% of the lost long-term clients by the end of the year, as well brought 15 additional accounts or clients through promo packages, resulting in a 12% increase in ad revenue compared to the previous year. Wow, a great answer, very thorough as well. So anyhow, well, let me also share with you some interview prep tips. I gave you a whole list of interview questions in this particular video, but those can actually be specified into a couple different categories, like the introduction questions, which has the purpose of understanding the candidate's personality, how they think, feel, and behave. These are some examples. Or they can also be classified into, some of them are classified into the skill-based interview questions, which is designed to understand the candidate's competency, which includes their knowledge, experience, and skills, and includes questions like this. And lastly, I guess of the 3 big categories, you also have the behavioral questions. And have videos on each of those to thoroughly explain how those interview questions work. And remember, I showed you this one, the best questions to ask the interviewer during job interviews. Here's a couple. So, could you tell me more about the working culture of the organization? And could you tell me about a typical day? What a typical day in this role looks like? These are some really good questions to ask during the job interview, but there's plenty more, so feel free to go check that video out. Well, in this video, I shared with you 50 different interview questions that you can expect to get during a job interview, and also showed you a few astonishing answers for some of these questions using a STAR method. And lastly, also shared some of the interview prep tips to help you get closer to your next job offer. Well, I'm Professor Job Offer, and I'm here to help you land your next job. Thanks for watching.